You know the feeling. You make plans, you get excited, you text the group chat, and then somehow the plans happen without you. Or someone forgets your birthday. Actually, someone barely remembers. You realize you haven't heard from certain people in months, but you see them posting about hangouts they had with other friends. You're not excluded, you're just forgotten. There's a difference. Exclusion hurts, but being forgotten, that's a different kind of pain entirely. The forgettable friend isn't the friend nobody likes. That's not it. People like them fine. They're usually friendly, usually kind. But there's something about them that doesn't stick, something that makes them easy to forget. And the worst part? Most forgettable friends don't think it's a pattern. They think it's just bad luck, bad timing. They don't realize they're being forgotten, again and again. Different people, same pattern. Here's what's psychologically happening. Forgettable people tend to be people who don't take up much space. They don't demand attention. They don't make a scene. They're quiet in group settings. They laugh at other people's jokes, but rarely make them. They listen way more than they talk. And in a world obsessed with visibility, with being seen, with making an impression, these people are almost invisible. Not because they're boring, but because they've learned how to disappear. The forgettable friend is usually the one holding back. They wait to see if others will reach out before reaching out themselves. They wait to see if they're wanted before showing up. They hedge their bets. They make tentative plans. I could come by if you want me to. Notice how that's phrased. It's not I'm coming. It's if you want me to. It's leaving an out. It's giving people permission to forget about them.
And the thing is, people do. They take that permission and run with it. Because human beings are selfish, not evil, just naturally selfish. We think about people who take up space in our minds. We remember people who make us feel something. We prioritize people who seem to want to be around us. Forgettable friends don't do any of those things. They're so worried about being a burden, so careful not to intrude, that they make it easy for people to not think about them. So what happens is a specific dynamic forms. The forgettable friend becomes the person who always adjusts. They always have time. They're always available. They never get upset about cancellations because they were never really sure they were invited anyway. They shift their plans constantly to accommodate others, and the people around them, without even realizing it, start to treat them like they're infinitely flexible, like they have no other plans, like they don't have needs. And the forgettable friend goes along with it because at least they're included, at least they're around people, even if they're forgotten. What's really interesting is the psychology behind this. There's a deep belief system underneath being forgettable, and it usually sounds something like, my presence doesn't matter, my needs are inconvenient, I should be grateful for whatever crumbs of attention I get. It's a form of self-abandonment. The forgettable friend is abandoning themselves before anyone else gets the chance to do it. They're making themselves forgettable as a kind of defensive strategy. If nobody expects anything from you, nobody can be disappointed. If you're easy to forget, you can't be rejected because you were never really expected to be there in the first place.
The forgettable friend often has rich internal lives. They think deeply. They notice things. They remember details about people's lives that even those people forget. They care, sometimes deeply. But all that caring, all that attention they're paying to others comes at a cost. It costs them their visibility. It costs them their voice. Because while they're busy caring about everyone else's experience, they're not making anyone care about theirs. And here's where it gets dark. Sometimes forgettable friends become resentful. Not always, but sometimes. They start to keep score silently. They notice who reaches out, who remembers, who doesn't. They remember every birthday that got missed, every group chat where they were left out, every time they were the only one not invited, and they don't say anything. They just absorb it. They file it away, and the resentment builds quietly in the background. But mostly, forgettable friends just accept it. They tell themselves it's fine. They're not the type of person who needs a lot of attention anyway. They don't need constant validation. They're independent. They're fine with being on the periphery. Except they're not fine. They're lonely. And the specific loneliness of being forgotten by people you consider friends is a particular kind of torture, because it says something. It says you don't matter enough to remember. Think about the forgettable friend you know, or maybe you are the forgettable friend. When's the last time someone reached out to you without you reaching out first? When's the last time someone made plans specifically because they wanted to see you? When's the last time someone fought to include you in something? Or does that never happen? Does it always fall on you to initiate? Does it always feel like you have to convince people to spend time with you? That's not a personality flaw. That's not just how you are. That's a psychological pattern, and patterns come from somewhere. This is where we need to look at what's actually driving this, because nobody's born forgettable. No child comes out of the womb thinking, I should make sure nobody remembers me. This gets learned. This gets reinforced. This gets baked into how someone sees themselves and their place in the world.
Many forgettable people grew up in families where attention was scarce, where there were too many people competing for focus. Maybe they had siblings who were louder, more demanding, more visible. And while those siblings demanded and got attention, the quiet one got overlooked, and they learned that their needs, their voice, their presence just didn't compete. They learned to be easy, to not make waves, to be okay with less. Some grew up in homes where being seen was actually dangerous, where drawing attention meant getting in trouble, where being invisible was the safest strategy. So they perfected the art of disappearing. They learned how to exist without being noticed, and they got so good at it that they've never really stopped. Others grew up in families where love was conditional on performance, where you had to do something to matter. And when they tried and it still wasn't enough, when they still felt overlooked, they eventually stopped trying. They thought, if I can't be noticed for what I do, maybe I should just stop trying. So they faded into the background, and they've been there ever since. Some people grew up with a parent who was so self-involved, so consumed with their own needs, that the child learned early that their own existence was an inconvenience. They learned to take up as little space as possible. They learned that the caring thing to do was to be forgettable, to be easy, to need nothing, to ask for nothing, to matter nothing. And the thing is, these early lessons don't just go away. They become part of how the person moves through the world, how they present themselves, how they interact. The forgettable friend's entire existence is organized around not mattering, and when everyone around them treats them like they don't matter, it just confirms what they already believed. But here's what's heartbreaking. The forgettable friend is often the most loyal. They're the one who shows up when everyone else is busy. They're the one who remembers your coffee order. They're the one who asks how you're really doing and actually listens to the answer. They're the one who would do almost anything for the people they care about. And nobody reciprocates, nobody notices, nobody cares back in the way they care. And they learn to live with that. They learn to accept one-sided friendships as normal. They learn to be grateful for any crumb of attention.
The real tragedy is what happens when the forgettable friend finally speaks up, when they finally say, "Hey, I feel like you forgot my birthday," or "I noticed I'm not invited to things." The response is often surprise. "What? No, that's not true. We love you." But the love they're describing is theoretical. It's not backed up by behavior. It's not reflected in who they remember, who they reach out to, who they prioritize. And the forgettable friend is left feeling crazy, like they're making it up, like they're being ungrateful, like they're the problem. Because the truth is, in a friendship where one person cares way more than the other, the caring person will always feel hurt. They can't help it. No matter how much they tell themselves they're fine with being forgotten, some part of them is keeping score. Some part of them is waiting to be remembered. Some part of them is hoping that one day they'll matter enough to not be forgotten. The path forward for a forgettable friend is actually about becoming unforgettable, but not in the way you might think. It's not about being louder or more demanding or more visible. It's about mattering to yourself. It's about deciding that your presence, your voice, your needs are worth taking up space for. It's about reaching out first because you want to, not because you're hoping someone will reach out to you. It's about making plans that you want to make, not just adjusting to what works for everyone else. It's about learning to say, "This friendship isn't working for me," and being willing to walk away. It's about recognizing that some people will always forget you, and that says something about them, not about you. It's about surrounding yourself with people who actually fight to know you, who remember without being reminded, who reach out first, who make you feel chosen. Real friendship is reciprocal, it's mutual, it's both people showing up. If you're the only one showing up, that's not friendship, that's servitude, and a forgettable friend has to learn the difference. If this resonates, if you're seeing yourself in this pattern, if you're recognizing all the ways you've made yourself forgettable, that awareness is everything. Because you can't change what you don't see. You can't stop being forgotten if you don't first stop forgetting yourself. You can't be chosen by others if you don't choose yourself first. You can't matter to anyone if you don't matter to yourself.
And the thing is, you matter. Your voice matters. Your presence matters. The world doesn't need more people disappearing into the background. The world needs more people who are brave enough to take up space, who are brave enough to let themselves be remembered, who are brave enough to demand to be chosen. Start small if you have to. Reach out because you want to, not because you're hoping for reciprocation. Make a plan and invite someone, knowing they might say no. Speak up in a group chat. Say something controversial. Be a little bit more visible. And when the anxiety comes, and it will come, sit with it, feel it, and do it anyway. The people worth having in your life will appreciate you more when you stop being so easy to forget. And the people who still forget you, they weren't worth having in the first place. Understanding these patterns, seeing how we make ourselves invisible, that's what we're doing here at the Forgotten Self. We're looking at the parts of ourselves that have learned to disappear, and we're learning how to come back, how to be seen, how to matter. If this helped you understand something about yourself, about why you might be forgettable, subscribe, because we're building a community of people who are learning to be unforgettable. Not by being louder, but by being real. Until next time, remember yourself before you expect anyone else to.
And the thing is, you matter. Your voice matters. Your presence matters. The world doesn't need more people disappearing into the background. The world needs more people who are brave enough to take up space, who are brave enough to let themselves be remembered. who are brave enough to demand to be chosen. Start small if you have to. Reach out because you want to, not because you're hoping for reciprocation. Make a plan and invite someone, knowing they might say no. Speak up in a group chat. Say something controversial. Be a little bit more visible. And when the anxiety comes, and it will come, sit with it, feel it, and do it anyway. The people worth having in your life will appreciate you more when you stop being so easy to forget. And the people who still forget you, they weren't worth having in the first place. Understanding these patterns, seeing how we make ourselves invisible, that's what we're doing here at the Forgotten Self. We're looking at the parts of ourselves that have learned to disappear, and we're learning how to come back, how to be seen, how to matter. If this helped you understand something about yourself, about why you might be forgettable, subscribe, because we're building a community of people who are learning to be unforgettable, not by being louder, but by being real. Until next time, remember yourself before you expect anyone else to.